This meeting is being recorded.
It is. Thank you. This is the North Tabor Neighborhood Association meeting. It's Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. And we're going to have a speaker who would like to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Joe West. I'm the architect of an upcoming project at the address of 5327 on Gleason. I was invited to offer any information for the project to the neighborhood association, and we're always very happy to do such a thing. The owner has compelled us to make ourselves available, which we love to do. So we are here to answer any questions, field any concerns, and explain the project.
Well, then I'll see. Does anyone have any direct questions, or should we wait until the explainer and see if we have follow-ups?
So
Can you just say which corner it's on, which southeast, southwest?
Well, it says here, let me see if I can give you something a little more precise.
this is the project where there's the old house being demolished and then the
Right, yeah, we had that
next to it. Got it.
that fourplex or quadplex there, that older 60s building, and then the bit older, almost craftsman style building that we were having some challenges with. That's exactly the spot. And originally the owner owns the properties behind it too, next to Hoyt. And when he first approached us, it was a really big building. And after talking about it, said we might want to scale this down just a little bit. It's too much for where we're going. So we got down to something that's just the two properties there, and he decided to improve the one on Hoyt and sell it. Right. So it's a bit smaller than the first ambitious project, which I'm very pleased about. But anyway, what we have today is approximately, could I share my screen? I can show you what it might look like.
Right.
I think we're pretty close.
So you should already have that capability. If you don't, let me know and I'll make you a co-host or something.
It just popped up, so I'm going to give it a go. It says host is disabled participant screen sharing.
Then I will, hold on, I can, I don't want to make you host forever. One day I'll go in here and I'll change it so that everyone has that capacity. Okay. And try it now.
Right. Bingo. Okay. So let's see if you can see my screen.
Wow.
That you should see a kind of a silvery building with happy people walking along it. You know, the renderings are always a very happy place, but
we can see it.
We've gone through a plan check. We're in our third round and we're really close to the end. So we think this is pretty darn close to what we're going to get. It's essentially the building is designed, it's fashioned after the more of a contemporary machine aesthetic, but essentially it's a 33 unit, 27,000 square foot apartment building with 2 retail spaces at the bottom and a lobby. And when we first proposed this building, we wanted to provide, you know, some parking and other things, and it just didn't pencil. It's like there's no way we can afford to put a parking system in here. So the owner was wise to say, well, don't offer any then, because if you tell people there's a couple of spaces, then every tenant is going to vie for it, and then you've got a parking mess. So for us, we advise our clients, it's all or nothing. Either you provide a ton of it off-site or on-site or whatever it might be, or none. That way the people you attract are already accustomed to living without the reliance of an automobile. And we've seemed to have some success with that so far. So this one's kind of answering that question too. But the construction should probably be beginning in about 3 months. The demolition of the existing structures has been a bit of a challenge because we wanted to make sure we salvaged as much as that older residential building as we could. So finding the right contractor who knew what they were doing and can handle that properly was finally found and has started that work. The quadplex, that thing was a disaster, so we couldn't wait to get rid of that thing. Asbestos and all kinds of other stuff in there. So what we're hoping this building does is another thing the owner was intrigued about is we want to put some sort of ground level amenities there for the neighbors that seems to be missing on that block. Like we didn't really have a coffee shop or a gathering space or that sort of thing. So we think this might do it. And being close to Kaiser and their facilities, we wanted to put a medical office down on the bottom floor on the other side as well, or some sort of service.
I mean,
That-
Providence?
Providence, that's it. Got Kaiser on the brinks. We just won another project with Kaiser, but that's Providence, right? So that's what we wanted to do, is put some sort of professional office down there. Then when COVID arrived, we thought maybe a hiring center or quick test center or some of these pop-up things that are coming in. But the point is to activate that ground level best we could, but quietly, not making it something that's attracting a lot of traffic. But we think the project's going to be pretty successful. So far, it's penciling pretty well, but I've got some more, let's see here if I can find some more information for you. Oh, that's strange. What is it? Are there any questions so far? Are we doing all right?
So this,
Yeah,
so,
go ahead.
so this is nestled in between the two corner commercial buildings?
Well, right to our west is another older structure that Robbie's going to tear that out and put in a convenience store. He's going to put in, it almost looks like a shipping container. There's going to be a little convenience store on our west side, which is this little spot back over here. He's going to take out his old residence and put that in there.
So does
And
a
then
Happy
Market,
Market still stays there or no?
No, it's going to be, he's going to take that little building out of there and put in a new one.
Okay. All right.
Probably in about a year or two. So we're kind of planning for that with our building as well. And then right west of that is that newer apartment, that white complex that went up, not too long ago, actually. So we've got a little bit of breathing room on each side, but for now.
Well, of course, we've watched all of Gleason between, 53rd and 60th get built up. It's really been very dramatic in the last couple of years. But so my question for you is that is about the design, which I suppose, nothing can be changed at this point, but it seems strikingly out of character for this street in this neighborhood. I don't see anything else with that much of that modern, metallic look. And I just wonder about the cost. These look like they will be very high end. And as far as the retail, it has been difficult to keep any retail businesses really going, even though this was supposed to be a designated town center and so on. And I know everybody else might mention this, so there's no need to really discuss it, but the parking assumption that people will get along without cars is really not borne out. So we all know that they have their cars and that they park them on our streets, and that we also work with the employees at Providence. So I understand there's not much you can do about it, but please don't, I guess I want to ask you not to perpetuate the myth that the people who move into all these apartment complexes live without cars. They just don't.
I see. Well, I could answer those in turn. I'll try my best. The building intentionally doesn't look like it surrounds because we're following Portland's own voted in design aspirations for the city as a whole.
And Joe, for a second,
yeah.
can I steal the screen and just kind of show off?
Oh,
what it looks like
sure.
right now? Okay, you don't have to stop sharing. I can just take it. I just don't want you to be
There you
surprised.
go. So should I continue?
Yes.
Okay. About the myth about parking. It might be perpetuating it, but we certainly didn't bring it on. The city itself actually voted for the master plan of 2035 to discourage the use of cars. So what we're trying to do is if we don't broach the subject, if we don't attempt it and build with it, we're never going to answer it. It'll always be speculative. So we got to attempt something. We have to house people. We know this, so we're all anxious to do it because we've been incentivized to do it. But to house people and then add the parking, which would be comforting now, it doesn't pencil. It's too expensive to do it.
I think
So now you'll have nothing.
We've heard all that, but there's been lots and lots of experiments done now. So it's just so that's a kind of very common neighbor response to these things. So I don't expect you to change anything, and we know what the Portland incentives are, but the number of units along in that sort of length of blocks is, I'm sure they're not all full yet, but we'll see where everybody parks. And it's unfortunately just I don't want to get too much on a soapbox here, and this isn't your
No,
issue,
it's
but the planning bureau that grants permits.
Well, the dialogue needs to continue.
Doesn't protect our cars. And so we have like highest incredible car theft and car break-ins in this neighborhood and in all of Portland. So parking on the street has become a hazard that I don't think anybody anticipated. So that's just a side effect that you can't do much about, but that we read about every day in our neighborhood newsletters. So that's the downside of these design plans that wasn't really anticipated in the beginning.
And I don't remember voting on anything about no parking. I don't recall that being anywhere to vote on. So,
Well, I mean, that's,
It's the comp plan. We didn't.
It was the elected officials that we elected did.
Right.
I don't elect them either. So, yeah, no.
That being
Okay, well,
said, Robert, you had your hand up?
yeah, just a couple of things. First, I mean, the parking issue, it's a dead issue. There's no point in really going back over it. I would have to say that I know a number of people who don't have cars now. They do, one of the car share things or something. So it's going to be, it's a difficult transition between now and, 15 years from now when this is more common. But yeah, we're just going to be living with cars, parked in front of our houses. As far as the design, actually, I kind of like it. And this is a matter of personal preference. That building that you can see there on the left on the screen is almost a carbon copy of the one that's a couple of blocks to the east. And that whole side of the block is very mixed. And so I personally, I think the design is fine. There's no uniformity of architectural taste along that side of Gleason. So personally, I think the design is fine. Are the tenants all going to be entering just through the front from Gleason, or is there going to be a back entrance to it, or how's that going to work?
There's 3 opportunities to enter the building. We'd like everyone to use the lobby because that's where our mail and delivery is going to live, but we have a designated bicycle entrance on the east side. So we're trying to entice people to come in on the east side, drop their bike off in a pretty big bike room, and then make their way up to the units. So there's a couple of ways to get in, but the lobby is probably going to be the most popular because that seems to make the most sense. We've designed it a little bigger than it normally is, or normally are allotted, because we know that a lot of people are getting deliveries now by bicycle, Grubhub, this sort of thing.
Mhm.
We want to make sure that transfer is very quick. They come in with their vehicle, drop off at the dropping off, and they leave. So we know that's a mode that's buildings we've recently completed in Portland are suffering from not having a fast enough getting those guys out of the way, get the delivery done and move on. So that's why we're trying to make that space a little bit larger, but we'd like them to use the lobby for the security of the residents too.
Mhm.
But before I stop sharing, I just wanted to clarify. So we're talking about where this this fenced off area right now, that's what's going to be the building that put us with this little area on the right with the interesting tile work and this big brown house.
Right, yeah, the green low-rise guy there, and then this older one you're pointing at now, yeah. Those two guys will go flat, and then we'll put our building up right there.
And then what about this little, what is it?
Yes, our neighbor. Well,
Okay,
that building,
Uh-huh.
he's going to keep that for a little while, not for too much longer. As you can see, the construction on his little box is almost done.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
don't,
this
I don't.
thing.
Yeah, that guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
I'll reserve judgment. He's a nice guy. He hasn't given us any trouble. But the small house he lives in, we're actually maybe talking about helping him preserve that a little bit, because we've designed the building to resist that thing if it catches fire. So if we build something else, I'm going to have to modify the building somehow. So if we can keep what he's got, sometimes it's interesting to have the vernacular kind of change a little. We don't lose our history completely. Like some artifact is still there, but that's truly his decision. I can't drive it. All I can do is make sure our building doesn't get hurt if it dies. So yeah, so those two things are going to go. The frontage is a thing that's we're really interested in, is what PBOT wants us to do with that sidewalk. As you can see, it's in pretty bad condition.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and we want to make sure that whatever intervention we do in there, it doesn't just like have old sidewalk and then stop and then brand new sidewalk. It's like, looks like someone didn't complete the work. So there, right there, that exact spot, you can see where Avi had to finish his. You see
Yeah,
the language is kind of starting, the sequence. That's probably going to continue to march its way down.
okay.
And PGE wants to keep that pole. They're convinced that they can provide us enough power with the existing pole that's there, and so we're pretty happy about that. When they start adding poles, you start getting all this jewelry hanging up over the city. It just looks
Mhm.
horrendous.
And this
So-
little, I'm sorry, there's so many hands raised. I wasn't even looking.
Am I
Um,
missing a chat, or there's a big chat going
Oh,
on?
there's a, I get a little pop-up. I see questions from Kim and Jules. Kim, do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Sure. It's maybe not necessarily a question, but kind of, I noticed, this development that Stephanie was speaking to that's happened a lot on here. The residential ones don't seem to have that retail at the base, and it just seems like the apartments are slammed up right next to the street as close as possible. So I would say I really appreciate the introduction of a building that has that mixed use at the base. So that this becomes maybe more of an activated street. And then also allows for that density, that higher density living. I do think I will make the statement, since I'm fairly new to this neighborhood, maybe a year plus, this is a very like high transit area. We do have a lot of
Mhm.
bus stops, and of course the MAX station on the highway
It
just
looks like it.
north. So it seems like it should be easier to live around here without a car, but I'm just curious if from a urban living standpoint and what you had to go through with assessing the zoning and the max floor area ratio, like what do you think might happen more along this corridor?
Well, since the corridor itself isn't designated a civic corridor, which would require you to have other provisions, I know the owner had to invest quite a bit of money in transit offset costs, so system development charges for transportation. So he's going to have to provide a certain level of like bus passes and other things for people to use alternate transportation. That I haven't found that very effective yet. I haven't seen like any metrics saying that has been really helpful, but he's going to provide anyway because it's the zoning code. It has to be either you're all in or you're all out. Whenever we do a building that has like maybe 30 spaces and 167 units, we have a huge parking problem because everyone who leases it expects it because they're paying the same rent. So then we have a big issue. But if the building just from the outset is like, if you're going to live here, you're not going to be able to ride on a car. I'm sorry, it's just maybe this isn't the place for you. The owner has actually taken that very seriously, and he's been speaking with the hospital saying, look, we have a building going up right next to your facilities. You can't use a car. You need to walk to work. And they're very interested in leasing out the whole thing. So it's like that kind of either you're in or out. It's been helping a lot. So there's no, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to solve your parking problem or not add parking to your streets. It's going to add parking. People are going to move in. So the big truck's going to pull in and they're going to spend all day unloading. And then Grubhub's going to be behind them and USPS. It's going to happen. It's an urban system. So there's no real way to solve it other than put in a big parking structure or a Texas wrap building. Which we get absolute no love for that kind of design. Like put a big parking structure and wrap it in something everybody likes and hide the parking. But what happens there, we find is, well, those cars still have to operate on the roads, and we're not operating in the 2035 vision. We're defeating it. So we want to work with what we have.
And Jules, I'm sorry, Jules, you had your hand up.
Yeah.
If I can find the mute button.
There you go.
I was hoping to be able to kind of look at the building design again. And
Sure.
then my question was around kind of the retailers. Who are you trying to attract to those spaces?
I'll tell you. Sure. We've got a couple that are interested already. Let me see if I can bring that image up again because it's probably the most illustrative. There we go. Okay. Now, can you see the screen with the big silvery building?
Mhm. Yep.
All right. So on the bottom on the right is some sort of professional office. That's one. And the spaces are so small, you can't really put in somebody who needs a lot of operational space or trash generating space to use it. It's going to have to be really lean, and almost, I hate to use the word, but boutique. I mean, you can't operate a retail shoe store here because there's just no room. It has to be a small office on one side. The other, the owner is interested in courting a cafe, a coffee, someone who's not going to be deep frying food all day, just coffee and something that you can walk up, roll up that large door in the front of it there and open it up to, pedestrian traffic and just make a space to gather. And on a short-term basis, which is a coffee shop's mode typically, unless you have someone who wants to camp out, which is fine. But that's what he's trying to attract, a cafe on one side with no big kitchen equipment, and then a professional office on the other.
And I wanted to repeat Robert's question in the chat. Do you know about affordable units within there?
Yeah, the affordable component, something I struggle with the city is what they consider affordable. But the ordinance is the ordinance, and the owner is actually right now, I think council has approved their multi application, which defines what units are going to be set aside and affordable and what affordable means. So my understanding was, I think about 80% of them were medium income and whatever that line is. The owner's the pro on that. I make the building, he makes the people go in it. But it does have an affordable component, that's for sure.
Oh, and Jules, this is before you got here. It's 33 units, I believe.
33, yep, right.
How big are the units?
I think our smallest one is 580 square feet, and the biggest one is almost 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, they're kind of
Okay.
averaging around 700.
Yeah,
Okay, and the price range? Sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know what
That's the big
price range is gonna be. That is the one that the finance guys think it's something, the city think it's something. And then say that the buildings are our bookend buildings on the corner start leasing a certain trend, it changes the whole thing. So what the owner's relying on deeply is that, well, our building, first of all, it's built a lot better than those, I'd like to say. So it's going to attract people who are willing to invest to stay here. We're trying to attract families because we have 2 bedrooms in here. We want to get people to live here for a while. We don't want the turnover that doesn't attract the owner. They want people who are going to stay here for a while. That's why the whole deal with Providence is so attractive. Is like, if we can get surgeons and specialists to residents here as a part of staff, we'd love to make that relationship, but that's still in the works. So our philosophy is, if you build a building that's appears high end, it's just not going to cost any more than those other ones do. We're just rather clever at getting it to look like it does. It may attract a certain base, but again, until I see people move in and actually start paying rent, I don't know what those numbers are going to be. Someone's going to come up with it.
Patty, did you have a question?
Yes. Joseph, I was just going to ask, so on the corner of 55th there, where the new, used to be a comic book store, but I think it's now a pot shop.
Yeah, surprise.
Now on the west, you talk about going in on the east side, is that down? So that building kind of goes down, and then will there be a break in the way for them to walk back that way, or how's that work?
Well, can you see my cursor moving on the screen? There's a gate right here that's like a key fob. You go in there with your bicycle, and there's a large door here, which is actually an egress, but we're designing it to be an entrance just for bicycles as well.
Okay.
So we're keen on not letting. Another error some of these buildings have is when it's trash day, all the bins are laid out on front of the curb, which is something we can't have that. So we have a staging area on the side of the building that when it's trash day, we have rollout service. So we don't, when it's time to pick up, it gets picked up, it gets put back. So we don't want to stage any trash or gear out here. It's just not going to happen for us.
Okay, that's another question then. So the garbage truck will pull up on Gleason Street itself, correct?
Yeah, we've been talking to PBOT quite a bit about how are we going to stripe or deal with this curb? Like, is it going to be temporary parking? How does that look for people who use it? And right now it's kind of going back and forth, but PBOT's interested in having a standard loading zone. So if someone does come up with a big U-Haul truck, they have a spot.
Good.
And behind that is a temporary loading zone for USPS, trash pickup, whatever that might be. So what the owner's operations has to do is make sure that, that the trash service doesn't occur with some other service for the city. So they're pretty keen on that. I think they'll be okay. They're pretty good at building maintenance. So I'm confident you'll be fine. But I'm curious to see what Keybot and the owner lands on for the front. Is the only unknown for the whole building. It's like, what's that going to look like?
Well, so then that's my second question, or maybe this is third. Will that be like the apartments up east of there where there's no parking on Gleason Street? Because the Tabor.
The other two on the end?
The Tabor Commons up on between 57th and 56th, there's no parking on the street. And then there's no parking on the street right across at these apartments right across from your new building here. But I'm just wondering, because if you have parking on that street, that will be probably taken up by Providence employees because there is a problem there with that.
Well, I think
So-
if we make sure it's not long-term parking or metered parking and more of a loading zone situation, you might avoid cars just hanging out there all day.
It looked like 15-minute parking is what's there right now. With
Okay.
next to it.
Okay.
Lars, you had a question, Lars?
Yeah, thank you. I guess I don't, it's not that I want to belabor the point about parking, but parking is a gigantic problem on this street. And we, right at 2 blocks from my house, a 64 unit on 16 Burnside, 0 parking. So when you say if you would offer some sort of parking that it would be a problem, it's a huge problem when there's no parking. So I don't know what you mean by it's a problem if you offer some parking. I'm sure some people will pay, $100, $200, $300 a month for a parking spot. How do you? I guess I don't follow that you don't want to deal with it.
No, we certainly want to deal with it. What we want to do is if you offer parking, we have to just take it from the highest level. If you offer parking of any kind, your site promotes the use of cars. You have to use cars on the street, park them inside and outside of your building, got to use them. If you offer enough parking for everybody, you'll be looking at a parking structure and then a small building on top of it because it's a small lot. If you want to offer a little bit of parking, like, well, we have 10 spaces in the back, it's a park under, we'll sell those to you, whoever wants to buy them, the rest of you, you're out of luck. The problem with that is that it attracts anyone even looking at the building to lease it to have an expectation of someday getting a car, which means that they already rely on a car in their daily life. What this building and this idea takes advantage of is we're not offering any car parking at all. To even be interested in living in the building, you don't rely on a vehicle. Now there's epic amount of bike parking in this building. It's incredibly expensive to provide, eats up a lot of square footage because we're trying to promote that alternative mode of transportation. So if you have a car and it's time to move onto Gleason Street, you're not really being invited to move here unless you shed your car completely. If we had a few spots, well, maybe I can get on the waiting list. So I'm going to keep my car, park it on your street, wait for the waiting list, and I get up there and that's now my turn to park on site. And now I can park my car. But those 5 years that you've been waiting on the waiting list, this poor person's car has been sitting on Gleason Street. So the approach of either all or nothing, we're not going to solve the parking problem on Gleason Street by building a building. You're not going to solve it by building a parking structure either. You're only going to reduce the use of cars on any of these streets by encouraging people to not use them. That was the idea of the 2035 plan was, that's fine. We want to kind of feather out the use of cars. We get it. But we gotta force people to the architects and developers to do it. We have to force them to do it, or they're not going to do it. So here we are. Here is the result of that. Well, we know we can house people. We know we can do it with the affordable element. We can't do both. We can't put a parking structure in there too. No one wants to look at a parking structure in the first floor, deal with all the cars going in and out, and then housing 10 people, because that's how it pencils. It's like, well, we got to spend money on concrete and ramps and all this business, or dig and go down. But the net effect is more cars. So people at a higher pay grade than I said, look, you can build a building with no parking whatsoever if you are successful in attracting people who won't use bike or won't use cars at all. Here we are. But the reality is every building needs cars, moving trucks, delivery cars, the USPS, a fire truck. some sort of motorized vehicle is going to operate around this building. That's where we have to do something with the sidewalk to make sure that's accommodated.
Right.
Now, this building is not going to keep people from parking on Gleason. We don't have a police force on the first floor saying you can't park here because this building is here. But we can't cheat people. We can't say, yes, you can definitely keep your car. You can park here in a couple of years. We'll get you a spot. You're just going to have to go put it over there for a while. That doesn't work. That's just ineffective. Robert,
Well,
did you have
Joe,
a question?
I'm sorry. I wanted to jump in just to let us know
He's
we're
anxious.
running low on time, because I know we could fix the parking solution here tonight if we just took another hour, but I don't want to do that right now. I want Robert to ask a question, maybe time for one more question after that.
Okay, just related to the parking issue though, it's adding a single parking space on a property like this. For every one, you add tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to the costs of an individual unit. And so even thinking about having affordable units in here and you're providing some parking, I just think, it's just physically not possible. The one thing I would ask, one of the other units that also has no parking, but they actually do have 1 or 2 parking space for handicapped. And so I wondered if there's any provision for somebody who is, otherwise immobile and really needs, is that considered at all, or is that just not?
It is. It's a big concern for us. We want barrier-free design kind of above and beyond the code. We don't usually get our way, but to answer your question about at least van accessible parking at a minimum, I am almost certain that one of those spaces at the front of this building is going to have the provisions for someone to access it from a van with equipment on it. That's probably going to be a minimum, that, and unobscured. It can't be dual use like that, and then a loading van has to always be available, particularly since there's retail. Since there's retail, it's a must. Residential, you don't necessarily have to have it, but retail, it needs to be there. So I'm almost certain there'll be a provision there for that.
Okay, good, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. And then I wanted to have the last question because Jules asked it, and I was curious too, if there's any kind of energy certifications, LEED, this or that, sustainable practices, anything like that.
Oh, my favorite. My favorite. No, LEED certification will not be approached on this building. The Oregon Zero Energy Code far exceeds LEED certification. So doing LEED certification is working backwards. They're progressive enough with local code that they've actually are a little more stringent, which is what we like. We're a low tech first kind of, so passive thing is where we don't like to bolt a bunch of equipment on the building to try to achieve some sort of rating. We've been doing LEED certification for Nike and Converse for years, and they've seen zero return. They've got a lovely plaque, but it uses so much energy and other latent resources, it's been ineffective. Now, that's not the same context, but the reality is we use enough passive technology here that makes it pretty effective. In fact, the building itself is going to be built to accommodate solar energy as well. Now, what's nice is the owner of the property is actually an engineer at PGE, so he's very, very keen on the wattage of a water heater, which is our favorite kind of client because they just dive into every little detail of these things. So we're going to find this building to be pretty efficient, we think. It'll all come down to when I see the energy bill. When I see the water bill and the electric bill, then I'll tell you it's been efficient. And also making sure that the folks know how to use the building. Now, one of the examples of the passive energy elements are those louvers that are on the front of the building. You see those metal straps going across the front. Those aren't just architectural features. Those are actually designed to keep some of the heat off the south-facing facade and not obstruct too much view out of the windows. So we try to use that older tech, just basic architecture we've been doing for thousands of years. We start there. And then if we have to put some sort of apparatus on, then we attack that. But no, we're not going for a LEED certification. We want to exceed Oregon Zero, that we think we can get there. But I think we're in good shape as far as energy is concerned.
Well, that's great. Then with that, I think I've learned a lot about the project. I really appreciate you coming out here to show
No
it,
problem.
to tell us all about this and that. And is there a way people can contact you if they had further questions?
I was just going to say that I'm going to put in the chat here my email address. I think that's probably the best way. It seems to have worked in the past, but I'll just put in there. Just email me if you have another question. If you want to continue the parking dialogue, Absolutely. We can do that. We'll just tell you what we know. But I'll put that in there. Let's see. Can you spell that right? Just give us a chat. We're always available, so we're easy to find.
All right, great.
Thank you so much,
There we
Joseph.
are.
I appreciate
thank-
coming forward. Thank you.
Yes.
Pleasure's mine. Anytime.
Thank you
if
so much.
Want to do another one, let me know. I'll let you go on to your meeting.
All right. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye. Okie dokie. Well, that's fun. But yeah, the parking dialogue can certainly continue. Forever.
I think that ship has sailed and we just keep beating the dead horse and it gets really tiring to me, by the way.
Oh, boy.
Well, I know, but nobody's fighting back. Oh, well, that's just the way it is. And I'm so tired of that attitude.
There's no
God.
fighting back. What are you
Yeah,
fighting for?
Well, I mean, we could do that tonight. We could scrap the agenda and figure out, but I think I will reserve my feelings on parking and versus non-parking in the interest of civility's sake. And I will, let me see, I'll look at what's on the agenda for after.
There's lots of parking in Halfway, Oregon.
Oh, it's true. We didn't have Quincy here tonight, so we might do that. Do you know who was talking? Was that Patty? Were you talking to Quincy from the other development? Somebody was. Okay, didn't hear from them. That's fine. I'll bring up, and I think Lars shared the link earlier. I'm going to click on it and I'll share screen again of what I've learned about the place right next door to me, who did not answer my emails yet. I might have to start calling them to pester, but this is what it looks like. From the Lux living home. So it doesn't give me a great idea about affordability there, but the North 60th. Oh yeah.
Where is this 60th and what?
This is going to be 20 Northeast 60th. So, if I could move this thing out of the way, I don't know how. I'm sure there's.
Is it right behind the AFSCME building or something?
Yeah, they're right on 6.
Right behind where? I'm sorry.
I'll show you.
Okay.
I'm sure that I can just go back and I'll just do it from here.
A block north of the intersection with Burnside on the east side, there was a house there that was demolished a year or two ago. And I think, is it AFSCME or something?
I will show you. So
it's right. You're
Yeah,
here.
it's right.
So here's the Union Hall on Burnside. This is my union, go local 1790. And then if you go down Burnside, you turn right on 60th. Then you go down, there's a little apartment building, which I don't know too much about. And then there used to be a home here that was empty for a long time. So this picture must be from quite some time ago, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
That house has since been knocked down. These trees and all that stuff, not the trees on the left, the big ones are still there. Everything else been knocked down. There's some beautiful art on the walls, and it was a big hole, and now it's like a more framed kind of basement style hole, and with lots of exits during the day.
Right.
And then, of course, this is where I live. I live here, right next
I
to.
love that place.
Yes.
Nice.
We've got parking. We've got a little bit of parking in front.
Yeah.
It's not assigned, but anyways, this place also, I believe. Here, let's pop over. I think they don't know what it says about parking.
Looks
But
like
it
it has
says-
parking.
Yeah, they're
They
gonna have
cost
parking.
$1 million. Is that
Oh, did it say how much it costs? Here, let me-
1.4
$1.4 million?
for a
what,
3.
each unit or what?
Yeah.
So where do you see that?
Scroll up.
14 units.
It's
No,
14
where-
units.
10 units.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
Here,
Where did I
I'll go
see
through
it?
the pictures, but first I'll give.
Okay.
It's about 14 units. It's supposed to finish. It says fourth quarter of this year. I don't trust that.
I don't
think
know.
It's going to go much longer.
Mhm.
And then here's what the little pictures look like. So they make my building, my building's not even part of it. But
there was that 1.4.
That
Yeah.
1.4, what that means is that's probably your minimum investment. If you want to be an investment in this building, you and, 10 other people, you got to come up with 1.4 million.
1.4 million.
You can't
Okey-dokey.
just say $50,000. You got to have, I think that's probably the base investment.
well, look at that. It's kind of blocky, but it's got a kind of a different, this kind of reminds me a little more about some of the other apartments, but they've got a couple 3-bathroom, 2-bathroom duplex.
They're double story. They're a
I see.
floor
There's two.
unit.
I see.
Yeah, so there's a 2-bedroom, I combed through this, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units, but they're double story.
Oh, wow, look at all these little bedrooms they stick in this place.
These units are if they're gonna sell them, these things are gonna be like those other ones that were on Gleason for $800,000.
Wow, look at them jam
Does
so
anybody
much.
question, those for sale signs for those 4 units just off those luxury units just on one of them's right on Gleason in those new buildings, did any of those sell? Because they were all over, they wanted $850, $875 for them for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house,
Hot dog.
a condo, townhome, whatever you want, 4 condo or 4 townhomes that faced, what street was that? It didn't face Gleason, but it faced in. I have to look up Zillow and see if anything.
56, and they're actually anyway, I don't think any of them have sold.
I don't think any of them sold. I think they're leasing, they're renting them now. And I think the unit furthest from Gleason has somebody in it. Cause I saw people like moving in there one day, or the garage was open and stuff, but
Sarah,
anyway.
800,000, that's very affordable. So, I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah. I
For
mean,
somebody.
I can sell my house for almost that.
The
So
ones that were
just-
selling for that on Cooch and 53rd sold. I mean,
Yeah.
it took a long time, but they did. It took maybe a year to sell them all.
Mhm.
And they dropped the price a little, but not like down to 600.
Yeah, but I think, Stephanie, one of those on the end is an Airbnb now. I walk by that almost every day to school, and I've been seeing the one on the end that's the east end, the one on the end on the east
Interesting.
side is a Airbnb now.
So that's interesting. Aren't there any guidelines for?
It depends.
Could I
It
just
depends
suggest
on the
that
HOA.
Oh, what's that,
we
Robert?
just did a gab session here about stuff. The developer's not here. I'm not running things, but I would just suggest to the chairperson, maybe we start at the top of the agenda and crank through the stuff that we've got to get accomplished tonight.
Oh, sure.
And then we could go back and talk about,
Oh, that's right. I'm so used to jumping.
because we started like.
Already having done that.
Yeah,
So that's a good idea. Well, you get the idea. It's one of these buildings. We can talk more about it. Let me do.
One of the 56,000 already empty apartments in the city. That's awesome.
All right. Let's see here. I don't even know how to get my thing to stop sharing now because I decided to hide it. Oh boy. I hid the thing up here somewhere. How do I stop sharing now that I've hidden the controls on sharing? That's the question. I'll hit the
Go to the upper.
there,
right
that'll do it.
Kind of view. maybe.
Oh.
There you go.
The escape
There you
bar
go.
saved me again. Yes, let's do some of the important things. Thank you, Robert.
Hey, can we get Lars Lars, will you mute your self, please? Thank you.
We've already been called to order. Let's approve the minutes. How about that? Let's think about approving the last month minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from January.
All right. We got a second
I
from,
second it.
okay, we've got a lot of seconds. Sarah, who do you want to put?
And she seconded it. She wasn't there.
No, she can't. Lisa can't. So somebody
right.
else.
Then it
Damn
looks
it.
like let's do Patty. Jules and Patty did it at the same time. We can put Patty. All right. The minutes have been accepted. The treasurer's report, Patty, anything interesting or new?
We need a vote on the minutes.
Oh, I'm
and-
sorry. We didn't
Sorry.
even, that was just
So
a
we-
motion.
So we need to vote, and then who's yay, who's nay, and then who's abstaining.
Sorry,
Because we do have people that,
And you can't vote if you weren't here last time.
Okay, well, we've got it. It's been motioned and seconded, so let's have a vote in favor of approving the January agenda. Please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Got some hands raised.
And I think last time.
Sarah, oh, thank you, Ross. Sarah, you're looking to. Oh, thank you, Kim. That's a lot of yes.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
And then any nays? Oh. And then any abstain, anyone who wasn't here. All right, Jules is not here, and Lisa and Lars did a little wiggle. And Lars wasn't here. All right. And I think the ayes have it. Then I will now declare the January minutes approved. Thank you. Now we're back on track. We'll kind of rush through because we spent a lot of time talking about house and parking, which is totally neighborhood association stuff. But now I suggest we move to the treasurer's report. Patty, how's our balance? An influx of cash, perhaps?
Hold on. So let's see, we renewed Host Papa for 2 years. And then we had a MailChimp payment go out and some sort of processing fee. I'm not sure, it was either for Host Papa or MailChimp. I'm not sure which. So our balance now is 2563.43.
Okay.
Got that, Sarah?
No, say that again. 25.
25.
Yep.
63.43.
Got it.
And then Kim, is your hand still a yes on the vote, or is that a new raised hand?
Nope, I'm just delinquent and pulling it down.
Sounds great. But Jules, your hand is new. What did you have to say?
My hand is new. Yes. Was not able to bulk buy a subscription for MailChimp. So that's why it's an $11 subscription payment. I also started to get into Facebook advertising, ran into an issue there. It could be the processing fee that you're seeing. I essentially triggered kind of a caution alert with Facebook because let's see, what's the easiest way to say this without getting super technical? The card didn't match the name that was managing the page account. So it kind of like did a circle and then got really mad at me.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to figure out, I have an email into Facebook to try to correct the error and have some grace on me to kind of correct that issue. Anyway, so that's where I'm at with that. The account information is still under the neighborhood association page, but because I was managing it. Anyway, so I will connect with you, Patty, if there's a next step there in terms of reworking that, but I might have to find a workaround for that. That was all I had.
Thank you. I was checking the chat to see if anything was new in there. Okay, Patty, anything else to add? That's our new balance after the MailChimp and then we're looking at maybe some Facebook advertising stuff, which we can talk about during the communications update, if that's okay. Jules, anything besides? So what the Facebook advertising, what are we thinking about for communications now? Communications committee.
Well, obviously any kind of paid things are on hold until we get that problem corrected. Still hoping to get some, we had a kind of a good cadence going with getting that spreadsheet up with topics to be inputted so we can do some posting across the page and for topics for emails. The email that went out last week performed really well. There was a lot of interest in that incident report. And I also kind of wanted to elevate that a little bit with kind of the stuff that's been happening on, over here and up on Tabor to, I think, the more opportunities we have to connect with the different neighborhood association groups, as well as be a part of the, there's a big call to action to try to, appear in front of the board. But more information that we can kind of get together and really rally around in terms of what we can do to impact change in our own neighborhoods is really going to be good, especially as we continue to see gun violence, outside our windows. But anyway, need some help with topics. Thank you for those who have been updating the pages. Everybody should have access and admin access to be able to post as you please with any updates. So let me know if you run into any issues there. Hoping to get kind of another kind of group connect on communications so we can hammer out some more topics and posts and stuff like that. That would be great. So would love coordination help on that front. That's kind of all I have.
All right. Thank you. Anything else on communications from anyone? All right. We'll keep inviting people to submit what they can. And speaking on the communications, it looks like Southeast Examiner deadline tomorrow, which is in the announcements there. All right, then I will move it to Kim. Laura.
Sorry. Yeah, and Kim, she had to go, my wife. So
oh, yes.
I think she had said, hey, if there's anything that anyone, especially, wants to be put in the South Examiner on her report to them, then, shoot her an email, call, whatever. So I'm just trying to gather some information.
Are we having somebody present next month?
Yes.
And we should get that info in to Kim so she can write up a little blurb.
Yeah. I mentioned it, I think, in one of my agenda emails, but I will do it again.
Yeah, let's get that to, and then maybe have Kim kind of do a blurb if anybody's interested in joining. They don't have to be part of the board, but they can join the communications committee and work on that if they're interested. So if we can get a blurb out, just looking for more people to be involved. They don't have to be on the board, but they could be part of our communications committee for the neighborhood association. That'd be great, Lars. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And then the other person that was thinking about speaking was one of the Metro Council candidates who was would potentially have this area of town. Apparently, I don't know much about Metro Council, but that's another reason I wanted them to come and tell us what it was and what.
You don't have a name. Do we know?
Yes, their name is Terry Prieg Rigsby. Terry Prieg Rigsby. So I put that in an email. I'll send another one out so that Kim, your Kim,
okay.
Get it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then now there's Kim Bandy, who was able to make it to the SCUL board meeting.
Yeah, this last SCU or Southeast Uplift meeting was largely focused on a discrepancy within the organization that they're trying to deal with. So there was a quick report out at the end. So there were no special guests speaking or any significant updates. So the committees that reported out at the end, one being the grants committee, noted all of the winners of the grants from Southeast Uplift this year. So I'll leave the link to those grants and what each of those organizations, kind of a summary of what they do in the chat, in case anyone's interested. I think it would be great to look through them and kind of get a sense of projects that are being submitted and see if there's anything that inspires what we might be able to do for our neighborhood, or if that can help us decide if we want to apply next year. So I thought it was very interesting. There were $10,000 going toward DEIA capacity building grants, and then there was another 51,000 going towards community small grants, which is a really large amount of money, which is excellent to see. So that was exciting for them to post about. And then the other things that came up is they're trying to introduce a new concept called the Hey Neighbor flyer. I'm not exactly sure based on their description how it'll be different from their current newsletter, but they did say that it would include just resources and information for neighborhoods, and especially about booking event spaces or training opportunities in the neighborhood. So it seems like it could be a valuable resource in that way to the southeast area. And then another, I'm not sure if you wanted to share anything about the Houseless Action Committee, CJ, but they did note a speaker that they were going to have at their February 28th meeting, which was the Rehab Sisters. Is there anything you wanted to share about that?
Rehab Sisters is an organization. I could tell you more. I mean, I've heard their name a million times. They homeless services. They create community through radical hospitality, and they aid a lot of folks. And it looks like they do on-site work at St. Peter's and Paul Episcopal Church. So it'll be great. People should definitely go in and listen to that. And I'll probably be one of the speakers for the following meeting, representing Cascadia Behavioral Healthcare and talking a little bit more about how we do houselessness outreach and advocacy.
Okay.
I think I might start adding a little, I might, just like you have your little Southeast Uplift section, I might add a little Houselessness Action Committee section for me, at least while we're in the midst of a crisis, and then we can always change it in the future if need be.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's
really, those are the major points from this last meeting. I think some other local neighborhood associations are trying to put in information about new events they have coming up. For example, Woodstock neighborhoods prepping for a Juneteenth celebration and want other neighborhood associations to join as interested. So if we could take time to look at some of the other neighborhood associations and see what they're doing, you can go to the Southeast Uplift website and take a peek at that. I see some people have their hands up.
Oh,
I'm not sure who raised it first, but.
Well, Stephanie's on the left, so let's do Stephanie.
You said this discrepancy took up most of the board meeting, and I just wondered if it was the business of the board being able to vote off reps, because we discussed that at our meeting, and I never quite wasn't sure if that got resolved or if it's something totally different.
It was related to that. I think it's more about going into arbitration with an individual that they are wanting to do that with and refuses to leave. So.
Oh my gosh, Alan Field still?
Yeah.
I thought he was not a rep anymore. Is he just coming as a visitor or what?
He's coming as a visitor. He's a secretary for his neighborhood association. So it was really just a meeting requesting from Southeast Uplift approval that they could go and make the effort to go into some sort of low-level arbitration mediation with him for the sake of trying to help everyone out and not be more aggressive than it already has.
Oh God, he is so targeted. I just don't feel right about this, but I wondered what was up. Okay.
Well, that's a whole thing, but
anyways, there was a side conversation about that. They split it into two meetings, so we didn't have any unique speakers come in and share something that I can report back on. But
thank you. And Robert, what was
the only thing I was going to mention is that the Southeast Uplift had some grants that they awarded here in the last week or so. And if you're familiar with North Star Clubhouse, which is a mental health recovery organization that's at Gleason at 56th, they applied for 2 grants and they got them both.
That's great.
So one of them, I know one of them is for translating a lot of their materials into Russian, Vietnamese, and Spanish. They're trying to do outreach to, the non-English speaking community. I'm not sure what the other one was. Anyway, they were very happy, and the members there were the ones who basically wrote up the grant proposals. So that's all to the good. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And I put in already on the agenda for next month that we should take a look through, and I'll send the link out beforehand. We should take a look through some of these grant recipients, like you mentioned, Kim, and see if that gets us thinking about actions.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's see. Those are the official updates. And Lars, it sounds like the land use meetings will start again later this month or something like that. Because we haven't had a, oh yeah, it's going to be Monday.
But last time I heard it was March. I mean, there was a big like, hey, we won't be getting together for some time.
Okay.
I believe.
Well, go double check because I've got them on here for 7 on Monday, the 21st. But that might have been on the calendar from who knows when.
Okay. I'll let Lisa know that
Cool.
because I am not. I think I had mentioned a couple of months ago that
All right.
I'm off that committee, but I will let her know. I'll reach out to her.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't have any other official business. I mean, I had plenty of announcements. This is the place to make some announcements.
Well, we have the one new business, the first item under new business on your agenda about this safety.
Oh, the safety advocacy. Yes. Yes, Robert, you should take it away.
Okay, and unfortunately Jules has left us, but she and Patty and I, and maybe somebody else from North Tabor were at this Zoom meeting. It was mostly Mount Tabor, but some of us got invitations to it. Concerned about the violent crime. Of course, we've had 2 fatal shootings in our neighborhood, and then things going on in Mount Tabor. So it was a very productive discussion. And it's, Patty can correct me, is it Kate Merrill? Was she the one who was the Patty? Yeah, she
Yes.
was the,
Yes.
she was kind of the facilitator for it. And without going into too much detail, it appears that we should really be thinking about collaborating with Mount Tabor on safety issues, particularly the violent crimes and the murders, lately have got everybody on edge. My personal takeaway from the meeting is, maybe this is partly just my opinion, that we do need to separate the houseless issue from the crime issue. That people just assume that a lot of the crimes, it's the unhoused who are stealing stuff off my porch, and that's probably not true. And it's also probably true that they are the biggest victims of crime in any neighborhood. But nonetheless, separating out those 2 issues, the violent crime is what is the short-term problem that we're all going to need to deal with. And that would include working together as the 2 neighborhood associations to support specific policies that city council might, whether it has to do with police or whether it has to do with the non-police response team that they're building, that sort of thing. So there weren't any like specific tasks that came out of this meeting, except that I think Mount Tabor is going to be pretty heavily involved in trying to come up with some policies that I think we should join them. And I'm hoping that Patty and I and well, the rest of us, did anybody else get an email from Mount Tabor? Some of it, I guess, because
I got an email. I think it went to the board or the.
Yeah, some of us
somewhere.
did.
But I got one. I couldn't make it, so I'm glad you were able to.
So that is something that is of short-term interest, obviously, because not only violent crime like the shootings, but the reckless driving. There was the car that ran into the old telephone exchange building up there on Belmont. So a lot of kind of bad things going on in our part of town.
Somebody knocked down the bus stop sign right by my house, right in front of the.
Things like that happen all the time.
Mhm.
Well, the
Oh, yeah,
murder
there was-
happened on my block. That was great, 5
Yeah.
shots and the guys in the street from an argument, 2
yeah.
people.
Oh, are you talking about on 60th by my house too?
53rd and Cooch.
Chooch.
That was right in front of Jules' house, practically.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we had a man, Craig, who was shot. Again, it was just some argument on the sidewalk. Who knows? But he was shot
Last fall.
just outside my house. Yeah, not too long ago.
So
There was
anyway, without belaboring the point,
Yeah.
we need to be aware that there is some action amongst at least our 2 neighborhood associations to come up with some actions. I mean, and there's always the neighborhood watch, whatever they call it these days. They're small things that you can do very, very locally around your block, but there are also other things that we might get involved with in pushing particular policies. And So just to be aware of that. And if Patty, you wanted to have anything to say, I'm sorry, Jules is not here because she was pretty actively involved in that discussion.
We'll have another opportunity to talk about these issues for sure.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, that's all I had. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Lisa, you look like you were about to say something. You've got your I want to say something face.
I always want to say something, but I gotta bite my tongue.
Okay, well, fair enough. I'll consider that. But yeah, there's lots to say about this. I mean, the conversation around neighborhood watch and what that means and how that works has come up many times. Usually when I have those conversations, it comes back to knowing your neighbors. Having a phone tree is a classic that, you know, I'm always a big fan of. Coming to these things promotes a lot of safety, and then having like bright lights. You know, there's like very simple things. But thank you for bringing that up, Robert. Yeah, the safety is continuing to be an issue, and I will say that at least based on the information that I've seen and the people I've talked to, yeah, I think especially when it comes to shootings, that's 95% people who are housed. Most people I know who are living outside don't have guns because you get them stolen immediately, like when you go to sleep. But it's a whole long thing. Sarah.
I am in conversation with the folks that are working on proposing.
Train.
I know sorry, it's my new phone. Nora picked the ring out. Don't you?
It's
like
beautiful.
Hang on, it's my mom. Sorry. Anyway, I'm talking with the folks about changing the city charter. And when do we want them to come and do a presentation? I did forward a presentation that they presented at the Portland Business Alliance about the two, I believe that there's about 2 options that they're looking at. But the woman, Sophia, said she would love to come and talk to us. When's the time? Like, should I say April, May? We can then advertise it so people can come for a presentation on what they're going to propose, and it's going to go on the November ballot. They're going to change. It has to go to the voters, and they're going to put it on the November ballot. So.
Well, we don't have
anyway
yet for April. I mean,
do we think that's too early? Should we wait till May and do it at the May? Because we're going to start seeing, once they decide what they're going to propose and put on the ballot, then there's going to be a huge political push to get information out to folks, to the voters. So I don't know if we want to be in front of it and get folks interested in April, or if we want to, what it kind of looks like is they're going to start pushing like June, July for the.
What are the public comment meetings then? Those are happening now.
They're happening now. And then I think they're gonna close, and then the committee is gonna propose what they're gonna do.
So it seems like we would want to be able to at least offer feedback rather than just be presented to. So I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we're
window.
kind of coming into the end. So, I mean, kind of like they're doing their feedback now, and they're getting stuff, public feedback and opinions and stuff now, but they're gonna, I mean, a lot of people don't even know this is happening. That's what, Stephanie, that's what I'm saying. Because a lot of people don't know this is happening. And a lot of people are very upset with how the city of Portland operates. And if we get, we need to get people to vote on changing how the city operates as a government. So I don't know how we want to propose this. I mean, if we have somebody already coming in March, then I could have her come in April.
I think earlier is fine. I like people to have a lot of time to consider things. We can use our meeting if this is their first time hearing about it. I prefer they hear it in April than have their first time be, right before they're expected to make a decision.
Right.
But
well, remember, we're kind of a small audience.
The sooner the better.
That's true too.
It's
True.
not like we're gonna send hundreds of voters their way, whatever. So
No,
it's partly for our own information. Maybe we'll get more neighbors to come, but so far we're not getting a lot of people attending our meetings, whatever we offer. So we'll just have modest goals and try and be part of the process ourselves by,
right.
at least doing this. It'd be great if somebody could volunteer to go to one of these public comment sessions. I can't do this Thursday, but I think there's several of them. And just so we had some conduit about how it's going. I'm assuming there's going to be recommending a city manager because that's what everybody's
Yep.
talking about.
Yep.
So I can't imagine anybody voting
think
against that.
I believe either of the two options that they've kind of come down to both has a city manager in them. It just kind of depends on if they're going to do all of the positions are going to be from like as Robert has like if they're going to be from boroughs or how are they, or if they're going to
At
have
large.
people,
Yeah.
are they going to have people representing certain areas and then they're going to have at large, or are they going to have a mixture? And they're kind of leaning towards a mixture of both. They're going to have at large candidates, but then they're going to have a representative that has to live in the area that they represent. And that's a big change from what we currently have. So I
Is
think.
Is there a place we can go to kind of get up to speed? I guess I've been out of the loop.
That's okay. Let me
Website
look here.
Find out what in the world is going on.
Well,
as she's looking for like a Google website or something, I would say to offer them, either April or May, because it may be that depending on their schedule, one is better or not for whoever's going to present to us. March would be okay too. It would be nice if we had enough time to advertise at least a little bit and get more than just the dozen of us who always show up at these things. But it is on Zoom, so it's not that much of an ask for them to come and, log in and talk to us for a little while. But we should educate ourselves on what these two proposals are at least, and prepared to ask questions. But we should be flexible and see when they can, the earliest time that they can conveniently come and talk to us, then we should try to get it on the calendar.
Yeah, because there would be room in March, but I mean, it'll be a matter of, we'd like to be in the newsletter, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say April maybe is as early as we should probably try to do it.
Yeah. And then that's the link that'll capture, and you can watch all the previous public sessions. I'm sure they're on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like that. I'd like to be caught up on that. So having Sophia come and talk to us would be great.
So I'll ask for her to come in April, or do we want her? If we do April, then we can advertise for next, we can have, we can put something in this month because tomorrow's a deadline. Like say, stay tuned. We will be having somebody come make a presentation about the city charter commission.
Yeah.
And then we can, advertise next month.
Yeah. And I put it in the agenda too, that again, like you already mentioned, it's on Thursday, 6 to 8 this week for anybody who does want to go. And then I put in some other announcement things happening around town. If it's okay for me to say those now, or if you had more you wanted to say about the commission.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to, if there's no other business to hash out, I'd love to make a couple announcements and people can, and then maybe think about adjourning for the night. Okay, I don't see any big angry faces. So I'm gonna read. We've got the Jazz Festival is beginning also Thursday, so have fun with that. It's gonna be around for, it looks like, about a week and a half, 2 weeks. Some more New Year celebrations happening. There's a link to it in the email I sent out. One thing that might be interesting based on our safety conversation, I got approached by these people from what they're calling the Portland Peace Initiative. And these people appear to be trying to bring groups of neighborhood leaders together to discuss policing, community safety, how can we have working good relationships. It's a little wishy-washy, I'm not sure, but it seems in the good spirit. They're going to have a listening session I also put in there. It's going to be on the 23rd. There's a link to that. Or if you just Google Portland Peace Initiative, I think it should come up with who they are and what they're about. Anyone who's interested in that. And then, of course, I always tell people that if they don't have enough on their plate to volunteer with Multnomah County, because Multnomah County is always looking for people to join budget advisory committees, and in this case, the Community Involvement Committee, which is, there's a link there in the agenda I sent out there. You can apply until March 9th. And I love the county people. They're happy to hear from anyone who wants to show up to their like usually monthly meetings. So I always like to push that. All right, any other great announcements, things that are happening around the neighborhood in this next month? Anything we should know about? Valentine's Day already passed. No big holidays coming up till Easter, it looks like. I don't know. I can't follow. But then that's great.
President's Day is next.
Oh, President's Day.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course.
Monday's
Hooray
a
for
holiday.
them.
No mail on Monday.
No mail. Didn't know about that. And then that's great. In that case, I think I see if anyone would like to move to adjourn.
I would like to move that we adjourn this meeting.
All right, we got a movement. Anyone second? Lars seconds. All right. We have still
Yeah,
vote.
have to have a vote. Just vote. Go. You know how we're going to vote.
I know how we're
Yes.
gonna vote. Yes, I got a yes. Oh, look at all these yeses. I think that what I'm really looking for is a no. Is anyone who's just against us adjourn? You know, Lars says we're gonna keep going another 20 minutes.
He can stay on.
All right, well then I'm gonna have some dinner. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.
So adjourned.
Meeting.
Thank you. And I'll see you all soon. All right, bye-bye.